They seem to say they're inefficient. So who gets to decide this, in your opinion, in the past?
It's a group of career senior executive officials.
Okay, are they government officials?
Both in and out.
Do what?
Both in and out of government, and that's about as far as I can go there. Yeah.
All right, well, that leads to my next question. Which private corporations are directly involved in this program? How much taxpayer money has been invested in these programs?
Since the hearing from Mr. Grusch last summer, potential questions have arisen. How, for example, the government manages to reproduce non-human technology behind closed doors. Lockheed doesn't deny having UAPs.
Up on your screen here, this is what they said. They told us here in a very short statement in response, quote, questions about UAPs are best addressed by the U.S. government. Notably, Elizabeth, that is not a denial.
Avi Loeb asked a former high-level Lockheed Martin official about them having extraterrestrial spacecraft.
Have an event like the one happened a few days ago when I had a group of people from Washington, D.C. In my home for a visit to discuss some other physics project. And one of them was a high-level official, former official in Lockheed Martin. And I just wanted to clear my understanding, and I asked him, well, there is this testimony about potentially corporations or, outside entities that are outside government that have possession of materials of interest in terms of extraterrestrial, spacecraft. And I expected him to say, no, that's complete nonsense. Let's move on to another topic. But instead, he said, it may not be wrong.
Senator Reid about UFOs kept secret by Lockheed Martin. But what about the Department of Energy? Thinking back to the summer hearing, there were a few excellent questions, such as from Andy Ogles as an example, that seemed to indicate that the DOE has a crucial role to play here.
Is there any indication that the Department of Energy is involved in UAP data collection and housing?
I don't have an answer.
I can't confirm or deny that in a public setting.
And
No.
could you do it in a secure setting?
Yes.
Mr. Grusch claims he made under oath are considered authentic and credible according to the latest findings from the SCIF meeting. Nancy Mace. Grusch was determined to be credible in some of the things that we discussed today. Private contractors should be on that witness list. I won't name names, but we have a better sense of who that might be. This is not going away. Tim Burchett also confirms after hearing Grusch is legit.
What was the purpose of today's skiff?
Well, we brought in a fella who was, I guess, just to establish that Grusch's legitimacy and his claims.
Let's start with a harmless example of how the DOE maybe does its job. Now let's imagine the following scenario. The DOE owns the land around the U.S. The private companies lease the land from the DOE. The private company's customers are the DOJ or other government organizations funded by Black Book projects. The military, mainly Army, only guards and protects this land. Other private contractors are hired to protect land inside of that. So technically the government doesn't have UFOs or other craft, only these privately owned companies have possession. This way government can deny accountability, and at the same time, if you point to the DOJ, all they have to say is that's not our land. And if you point to DOE, all they say is, we don't know, we leased the land to someone, and that is private information. So much for that, but that's not all if we assume that the DOE goes that far. The question inevitably arises as to why. Now, energy generation and sustenance creation are the one of many potential reasons the UAP phenomenon is still secret. It will ruin those in positions of power when they are released because they create equality and abundance. And that is unacceptable to those who prey upon poverty for their profits. That clearly explains why the DOE is all up in it. The US government is absolutely capable of keeping things secret. Nobody had a sniff of stealth helicopter programs until one crashed. UFOs are levels of secrecy above stealth helicopters. So the idea that something like this has been happening for a long time is anything but not absurd. And then there is the Atomic Energy Act. There is a framework and classification system that allows research and development to be tightly held in the DOE for military use. This classification is called Trans-Classified Foreign Nuclear Information. There is a very good possibility that ARRO never needed Title 50 authority to get to the bottom of this issue. Technically, Title 10 and the need to know should have granted them full access to the programs. This classification is where core secrets live, and highly likely where something of this age and magnitude would be kept. These legacy programs are in a category that doesn't exist, that's previously been veiled under an EO 13526. This makes them illegal in lieu of the current legislation. TFNI does not include UK or Canadian programs. This means these programs are under a different agreement, which probably makes them illegal. TFNI research and development with the military under 142E. With Department of Central Intelligence, Director of National Intelligence has no means to be declassified. Department of Energy had to make a determination involving these materials. Department of Energy is the sole entity that can declassify NHI hardware, biologics, and/or research.